A team of Ukrainian military psychologists train soldiers to face stress and trauma after a year of hard fighting on the battlefield. But things get more difficult as Russia's war heats up. ZARICHNE, Ukraine, Colonel Oleh Dombrovskyi inserts key into the ignition of his orange Lada several times before engine finally starts. A Soviet relic kind popular in devastated Donbas region, inconspicuous car travels for miles as Colonel Dombrovskyi and his team of military psychologists traverse front lines eastern Ukraine to train soldiers to deal with trauma they suffered a year later. At war. Sometimes soldiers can't even identify what the problem is, and this training helps them solve the problem, what to pay attention to, how to control your mind and thoughts, said Rodion Hryhoryan, a military psychologist. Understanding the problem is the first important step. Colonel Dombrovskyi and his crew are advancing east through the open fields toward an abandoned house just 3 miles from the front line. Half a dozen Ukrainian soldiers from the 125th Brigade arrived from the Donetsk front lines for a meeting. Like hundreds of thousands of soldiers across the country, they engage in fierce combat with Russian forces in trenches, forests and cities. They saw their friend die. The guys came from the position told me they were experiencing shelling and stress needed support. They can't manage on their own, said Ihor Bahniuk, deputy battalion commander. The longer the war goes on, the more people will need help, he said. Colonel Dombrovskyi leads a group of several dozen psychologists and trainers at the Center for Psychological and Moral Support in the Ukrainian Regional Defense Forces. Each team of trainers conducts 60 to 90 training sessions per month, including group therapy or one-on-one sessions. Instructors teach various breathing techniques relieve stress, physical tactics to prevent soldiers from panicking under attack, and mental exercises help them calm down. Sometimes the sessions simply provide a setting for soldiers to show off. It's not just matter of life and, it's also about losing person's home, relative or the city they used to live in. It's lot of anxiety, said trainer Oleksandr. Konstiantyn has been on the front lines since November. At end of the session, she turned trainers for advice on how to prevent her from freezing and being unable to move on battlefield. He said he wished he had learned these techniques before going into battle. When your position is fired, you realize it's a lottery. Will it hit you or not? Something can happen every day and you have to come to terms with it. While psychologists have already trained thousands of soldiers, treating trauma at the scale of an entire army, during an active conflict, is a huge challenge. Volodymyr, another soldier who attended the session, said he had a heart attack during the conflict. He said he doubted that a training session would help him fully overcome the trauma he experienced. Imagine, 2 weeks of non-stop shelling and explosions all around you, said Volodymyr. You manage to hide, then you lift your head and a few steps away comes a crater as deep as your entire body.